2023 Board of Public Works and Safety meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Locke.
Here.
Ms. Greenwell.
Here.
Mr. Molina.
Are there any conflict of interest statements?
Nope.
Number 4, approval of the minutes of the meeting of August 17th, 2023.
I recommend the approval of those minutes for August 17th.
And I concur. Bid openings, I don't see any. Matters from other department heads or their representatives. Mr. Button.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to update the board on the NICD work that's being done at Hammond in Michigan. So I'm not asking for any action. I just wanted to make sure you folks were aware of what's been going on. You know, they have to set the large bridge across Hammond in Michigan. We asked them to pull back and give us a clear plan on how they're going to move forward. That was provided to us Tuesday of this week. Yesterday we met with representatives from Passion to talk about what the plan is, what their schedule was, what the risks were to the schedule. They're anticipating requesting closing Hammond and Michigan again on September 5th, which is a day after Labor Day, for the 13 days following that period to do that work. And so I've asked them a lot of pointed questions yesterday to make sure that they could keep their schedule. The risk could be very inclement weather. If it's raining a little bit, that's not gonna hold them back. But that's sort of the direction we're headed. They are expecting on bringing to the board next week a schedule and a request for closure at that time. So I just wanted to let you know. I've asked them to go ahead and put up advanced warning signs in anticipation of that, because the holiday's coming up and you know, their request isn't in yet. So I just wanted to let the board know what was going on.
Okay.
Dean, is it fair to say that no work was performed when they had it closed the last time, or was there work?
There was some work that was done. In fact, what they did was they took a step back while the crane was in the middle of the street and did some ground penetrating radar to see if there were any other potential problems to deal with, and they did find some where there was subsidence underneath the roadway that hadn't developed yet. Right, there were the road wasn't sinking, but there was sand and aggregate missing underneath the roadway that wasn't supporting. So they dug that out. They made those repairs. They're ready to
those repairs caused by, were those
No.
issues caused by them, or they existed prior?
They existed prior. It was not as a result.
Penetrating radar before this.
Correct.
And so that probably, okay, so that's kind of a one-off. What about as far as, did they expect to have Hammond Avenue, let me ask it this way. When their original request was before the board to close off Hammond Avenue, was the expectation that at the end of that period, they would be complete with their work and the bridge would be set?
Yes.
Okay.
And that is true again with this schedule. I asked them with their request that they would provide that written schedule to the board so that they knew what that was, with the maintenance of traffic that we've reviewed already, and their official request to make the closure.
I'm almost wondering if the board could require a bond to be set, or a cash deposit, that if they don't finish their work within a certain amount of time, it's X dollars a day. Because I'll tell you, it's beyond aggravating for all of us, and I know Dean is aggravated as well, that's just being polite, but it's beyond aggravating that they, number one, screwed up, or, you know, caused damage to the 12-inch main, not caused damage, burst it. Number two, had the crane sit there doing nothing until they figured out how to move it. And number three, they're gonna ask again to close Hammond Avenue, which is the main artery. Any parent that has a child that passed, I'm assuming is gotta be beyond aggravated, because who knows how they're gonna get there now, right? They've gotta go, I guess, down Seoul, and then get over to Douglas, and then get over to Russell or State Line, and then come back in. So it was bad enough the first time. I get it, things happen. They didn't, you know, it's a whole different issue regarding that claim that Dean's actually been working on really well, and I appreciate that. But I just want these guys to know, I mean, granted, it's a huge project for the city, South Shore or whatever, it's great. but they have to be responsible if they're not going to do it on a timely basis. And so I don't know how I'll talk to Dean about this idea, I'll see what he thinks about it. I don't want to be too heavy-handed, but at the same time, they need to know that that it impacts the city.
Well, I can only tell you that I'd be a fan of something, because they're asking for 13 more days, and we have no guarantee they'll be done at the end of that time.
Right.
So I'd be a fan of that if that's possible. And I guess you guys can discuss that and bring it back to us.
I'll be here next week, and by that time, Dean will give them a heads up if it's something that Dean believes is, makes sense, and if it doesn't, we will work through it.
Okay.
I'm open to anything that will make a guarantee that they'll complete the work on time.
Thanks, Dean.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
That's
Thank
all
you.
I have for now.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anything else from department heads or their representatives? Okay, moving on to correspondence. Letter A, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting $171,521 of CIB funding to be allocated for the Hammond Avenue change order number 12 for Reith Riley for the removal of vaulted sidewalk submitted for approval.
So for the record, I'm requesting approval of both the funding allocation and the change order under this action.
Okay.
During the course of construction, it was determined that we found 3 basements that extend into the right-of-way, one at Eat, one at the Basic Business Building, and one at the former Straube Building that is impacting the way we construct our roadway and the streetscaping and the lighting that's going in downtown. And so in order to do that, we have to isolate the basements at the property line and remove a portion of the basement so that we can make construction and then fill that voided area that's underneath the sidewalk. We asked Reith Riley to get a price for that. They reached out to Hassey Construction. Hassey provided a price to do that work. It's going to take them about 18 days once they finally get started, which should be in the next couple weeks. It's urgent that we get this work going so that we can try to get the project reopened by the end of this year. And so I would ask your approval following the Capital Improvements Board approval of the funding allocation on Monday.
Okay. Yeah, you good? Yep.
I recommend the approval of the funding allocation and change order as submitted by Mr. Button.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Letter B, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting $18,825 of CIB funding to be allocated for the Chicago Street excess land parcels and agreement with American Structure Point submitted for approval.
So during the course of our Chicago Street project, we acquired property, and the portions of those parcels had not been dedicated as right-of-way as they should have been. Notably, the the southwest corner of Hammond and Chicago, right? It's the former car care building. So we need this property legal description provided so we can dedicate the right-of-way, and so we're asking Structure Point to do that work. There are a few other parcels that also need to be determined, the legal description determined for the purposes of dedicating right-of-way. So I'd ask, CIB met, Capital Improvements Board met on Monday and approved the funding allocation for this work, so I'd ask for your approval of the funding allocation and the agreement with American Structure Point.
I recommend the approval of the funding allocation and the agreement as submitted by Mr. Button.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Letter C, correspondence received from Dean Button requesting the approval and electronic signatures of the NDOT LPA agreement, Marquette Greenway Trail, Kennedy Decline, DES number 1901900, submitted for approval.
So this is a federally funded project supported by the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission. So this is the agreement that the city makes with NDOT to receive funding and for NDOT to take control of the management and construction of the work. So this is one of those where we're asking the board to give the board president the authority to sign the document through the electronic signature process. And so that's sort of what we're asking for at this stage. And it's been reviewed by the engineering department and provided by NDOT. It's a standard agreement, so we'd ask for your approval.
Okay.
I recommend the approval of the agreement as well as the electronic signature as submitted by Mr. Button.
Thank you.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Letter E, correspondence received from Dean Button recommending the approval for the city of East Chicago to use 165th Street in Hammond as part of an NDOT detour of a closure of Chicago Avenue and Indianapolis Boulevard for approximately 2 months. The option to use 129th Street has been denied.
City of East Chicago approached the city of Hammond. They have a project that's going to close Chicago and the Boulevard in East Chicago. In order to divert traffic, they needed a detour, right? They've been working on that area just north of Chicago for quite some time. There's a 60-day closure request. They need to get permission from the, through the permitting process. In NDOT, they need permission from the adjoining LPA, which they're detouring traffic to. That's us. Had a brief meeting with the mayor the other day. He described what the plan was. They gave us 2 options. One was to use 129th Street, which we do not want them to use. One was to use 165th. It's a street that we normally detour traffic to. It's wide enough to handle it. It's designed to handle it. So that made sense. Administration agreed, and I'd ask for your approval.
Okay.
I recommend the approval as submitted, of the agreement as submitted by Mr. Button.
And I concur. And I apologize, I went from C to E, so we're going to go back to D.
Thank you.
Correspondence received from Dean Button requesting the approval and electronic signatures of NDOT LPA agreement Marquette Greenway Bridge widening, DES number 2101128, submitted for approval.
So if we were following C, I would have said ditto, with the exception that this project is, NDOT has a project where they're widening the US 20 bridge, Michigan Bridge, over Kennedy Avenue. They're doing a bridge replacement there, so that's under design. With NERC, we agreed that we should widen the bridge an extra lane to handle the bike trail that connects East Chicago to the city of Hammond's Market Greenway Trail. And so we're the lead agency for the widening project, and we are sharing the 20% cost equally with the city of East Chicago because it connects to both communities.
Gotcha.
And so this is the agreement that the LPA has with NDOT, and I'd ask for your approval.
Okay.
I recommend the approval of the agreement and the electronic signatures as submitted by Mr. Button.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Letter F, correspondence received from Dean Button recommending the approval of the agreement with Republic Services for soil disposal on the removal and replacement of lead-impacted soil environmental remediation project submitted for approval.
So this is round 3 of phase 3 of our Robertsdale lead impacted soil remediation project. This is the disposal. It's an agreement you've seen twice before.
Yeah.
It's being funded through American Rescue Plan Act funds, and we'd ask for your approval.
Okay.
I recommend the approval of the agreement as submitted by Mr. Button.
And I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you. Letter G, correspondence received from William Short, Chief of Police, requesting the promotional raise for Correctional Officer Oscar Estrada, effective August 22nd, 23. The resignation of Officer Shane McCormick, effective the close of business on September 15th, 2023. The resignation of Corporal Juan Ortiz, effective the close of business on August 27th, 2023. The promotion of Officer James Sheets to the rank of First Class Patrolman, effective August 6, 2023. The promotions of Officer Jason Chorba and Simon Seba to the ranks of First Class Patrolman, effective September 9, 2023. The reassignment of Captain Roger Cardwell from Narcotics Division to HPD Police Garage, effective August 21st, 2023, and a disciplinary action.
I recommend the approval of Chief Short's request.
And I concur. Letter H, correspondence received from Kelly Kearney requesting the bid award for the demolition of 1806 Brown be re-awarded to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder, JM Industrial Services Incorporated, in the amount of $16,300 after the initial low bidder informed the city it was unable to accept the work.
Sealy Construction was, good morning.
Morning, Mr.
Sealy Construction was the original lowest bidder. Their equipment is tied up in other parts of the state, and they will not be able to make it back in time to make this demolition. So JM was second lowest bidder, and we're going to award it to them, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Kearney.
Thank you.
I recommend the bidding award as submitted by Mr. Carney.
And I concur.
Just as an update to the board on 1806 Brown, Mr. Farrell, myself, Mr. Kearney have been in, and actually Mr. Luter as well, have been in touch with the owner, Mr. Modris. Is that right? Dobris, sorry. Mickey Dobris, via email. A couple things I want the board to be aware of and just make of record today is that, one, we informed Mr. Dobris that the demolition order that we have on the property is valid and enforceable against him as a subsequent owner. Two, I informed him that it has come to our attention that the property has a for sale sign on it, and that I think is a little bit in contradiction to what he told us, which is that we're on September 14th, I think is the
Yeah.
date. Either he's going to have a plan for demolition, whether that includes everything including the foundation or everything but the foundation.
Right.
If not, we were going to then proceed with our demolition, and I know Mr. Kearney's making sure that our demolition contractor, JM now, is ready. And what I told Mr. Dobris as it relates to the for sale sign was, look, there's nothing wrong with you wanting to sell your property. I'm just letting you know, one, we have a demolition order and we expect some plan of demolition on September 14th, like you told the board. Two, that you have an obligation under Indiana Unsafe Building Act to inform any subsequent buyer of the demolition order, and I cited that part of the statute for him. He indicated that he thought I was being threatening. I don't think I was just being factual. That's what I was trying to be, so if that came off as threatening, that wasn't the purpose. And did I leave anything out, Nick or Kelly? Is that everything?
That's everything.
Okay, so that's where we're at. I know that I received a message from Mr. Dabberton about the problems out there. I know I'm probably getting the tip of the iceberg. I know Kelly and Nick and Chris are getting a lot more than I am, and Bill. So I want the neighborhood to know, if they're watching or will watch this, that we are on top of it. It's a process. It takes a while, but we are laser focused on getting a solution to this property.
So do we have a drop dead date of we're going to go forward if there's nothing done?
It's not really a drop dead date, but I would say to you that September 14th is a very important date, because at that point, Mr. Kearney is going to give his opinion as to what he believes the status of the property is. I believe Mr. Luter, Mr. Farrell may also chime in, and I will give you the legal opinion as where I think we are.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to letter I, correspondence received from Armory Bolden, 939 Cherry Street, requesting to block Tapper Street from Cherry to the alley for a birthday party on August 26, 2023, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Don't see any signatures or
That's
anything.
what I was wondering. We
Yeah.
just did one.
No, just, no.
There wasn't any houses? The side
There's-
house.
Yeah, there's really nothing down for the 900 block. I'm
Oh, it should be
I think
okay.
I'm okay with it, yeah.
Okay. Motion to approve Ms. Bolden's request.
And I will concur. Moving on to number 8, matters from board members. Do you have anything? I don't have anything
Empirical
either.
data to present.
Thank you very much. Number 9, new business, letter A, funding allocation request form requesting $25,000 of 5th District Gaming Fund to be allocated for the Dowling Park Pond work, submitted for approval.
I recommend the approval of the funding allocation as submitted.
And I will concur. I will point out it's been signed by the council, the controller, and the mayor. Letter B, disposal authorization forms received from the Hammond Police Department, submitted for approval.
I recommend the approval of the disposal authorizations.
And I'll concur. Letter C, right-of-way permits. There's 6 of them received from engineering department, submitted for approval.
Good morning.
Mark, how are you? Good morning.
Good. Thank you. There are 6, like you stated, 4 of them being NIPSCO, just replacing the poles and upgrading their equipment on the poles throughout the city. Another one being on River Drive, approximately 190 feet of conduit they're putting in. And also, one other one would be a detour for the Monon Trail between Douglas and Waltham, and that's going to correspond with the anticipated street closing improvements of Douglas when they're putting the tracks through and so forth.
Gotcha. Mhm. Yeah,
I recommend the approval of the right-of-way permits.
Thank you.
and I concur. Letter D, garage sale permit submitted for approval. I see 428, 165th, is that, that's not the one, is it? So it's on the odd side, okay. Michigan, 2 days. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have, we're gonna be checking that. Nothing there. One day, 2, 1. Yeah, we're good, T.
I recommend the approval of the garage sale permits.
And I will concur. Letter E, C-Click Fix requesting paint and signs for the pedestrian crossing at Northcott and River Drive.
I guess you refer that to engineering. There's an opportunity here to work with the Little Calumet River Basin Development Commission to see if they might help participate in some of that work, so.
Yeah, she included a picture, so.
If in fact it's the crossing I'm thinking of, so yeah, we'll sort of run with that, if
Okay.
that's okay.
I recommend that this matter be referred to engineering for follow-up.
And I concur. Letter F, notice to owners of affected property located at 6257 Holman Avenue.
No action needed by the board, just information.
Okay, no action necessary for that. Number 10, old business, letter A, renewal contract with Impact for the copiers, printers within the Hammond Fire Department.
So upon request of the controller's office last week, and upon checking with IT, I believe the check has been complete and everyone's satisfied with the request. We would ask that it be signed as presented.
I recommend the approval of the contract as submitted.
And I concur. Letter B, status for 5554 Walter.
This is the Botello property. You remember the Botellos?
Yes.
She came in with her husband several times, or I should say a couple times. She came in by herself several times. Mr. Luter has informed me that work continues at a very slow pace. We're actually out of the rehabilitation agreement term, so the city can take whatever action, well, could always take whatever action it wanted to, but usually we at least wait till after the term is over to do anything unless there's absolutely no work going on. Mr. Luter's asked for 2 weeks so that he can get into the property. He's planning on trying to do that with the owners, and then we'll report back in 2 weeks to see if we're going to extend the agreement, and if so, for how long, or if we're going to take other action.
September 7th, okay, Kevin?
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
9/7. And Linda, can you make sure the owners
Okay.
get notice?
I recommend that we set this for status for September 7th, 2023.
And I'll concur. Moving on to number 11, rental registration hearings. Nick, none? Thank you. Number 12, the meeting's open to the public. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say? Come on up to the mic, sir. Could you pull that down and give us your name?
Yes, sir. My name is Richard Trevino.
Richard Trevino?
Yes, I live at 817 Sibley Street.
Okay,
And my wife, she travels to work every day into the city. And the best route that she has been taken before all this construction went on was Sibley all the way to the 94. And since all this construction has been going on, it's been chaotic for her. And all these changes of the, like Sibley has been torn up over by Holman Avenue, closed down, and then even closer to where we live. So, and then the constructions have affected, so it's the constant routing of,
Okay.
the path. And it's affecting her, even being late for work, because all of a sudden it's changed from one day to the next. And we're trying to understand, why can't they just fix the one road that's under construction, then go on to another one? Instead, they start this one, they leave it, they go to another area and start tearing that down, and it's just ongoing. It's very frustrating. Like yesterday, she was also affected because she was used to taking Sibley to Seoul to Douglas and so forth to get to 94. Well, they closed down where Seoul goes into, Douglas. Now she had to go around and take the Skyway. And that's very frustrating, because that makes her late for work too, because she didn't expect that.
Well, the only thing I can say to you, Mr. Trevino, it's frustrating for everybody, and sometimes it's not as easy as finishing one and starting on another. I don't understand myself everything that comes along with road, repairs and so on and so forth, and I don't really have a good answer for you. I'm not even sure Mr. Button would have one for you. She's going to have to find another way to get there in the interim. That's all I can really tell you. But I can tell you it's frustrating to everybody that drives in the city. I can assure you that.
Yeah,
So-
'cause I'm sure there's a lot of businesses, the truckers, that were dependent on that path to get to Calumet and wherever they got to go from there.
Very much so. The only thing I can tell you is a lot of good things are coming out of this. So when it's done, it's going to be great. We just have to be patient in the meantime, and that includes everybody, unfortunately. And that's really the only answer I have for you.
I can speak to Mr. Trevino after.
Okay.
Okay.
Sort of give him some
Yes, sir. I
Better
appreciate it,
understand.
Mr. Button.
I appreciate it.
He'll
Thank you.
talk to you after the meeting, okay?
Yes,
Thank you, Mr. Trevino. Anybody else in the public like to speak? Chris, you good? I'm good. Okay,
Motion to adjourn, recommendation to adjourn.
and I'll concur. Thanks, everyone.